Welcome. New episode of Serial. Serial is the series where I talk about my photos from the preceding months, either that I took or that I've edited. And basically for this month of November 2023, let's directly start with two pictures. That's in London. I was testing the DP2 Merrill and the DP3, two cameras with a foveon sensor from Sigma. They're kind of very well liked by those who have had them. And so I wanted to see how those foveon sensors really react in a more casual way in my own practice. So here we go. Very interesting color rendering. I've talked about it in other videos too, but I'm going to work on a specific video for foveon sensors, but very organic, very film-like. The problem is the noise to signal ratio in low lights, because it's hard to go up in ISOs without having this huge grain. But still here, as you can see, it's the rendering is really interesting. Again, with those two images. You will go for slower exposure times, but longer exposure times. But when you have enough light, the combination of the lens, either for the DP2 Merrill, an equivalent 45-50, I believe, and for the DP3 something like 80 millimeters. Once you have more light, you definitely have loads of information and a really very, very interesting rendering coming out of those cameras. Here, just side by side on the left, the DP2 Merrill and the DP3 Merrill on the right. That was from my hotel room at the time. Just to give you an idea of the slight differences in color balance. So it might be also the way the camera calculates the color balance, but or it could also be the lens construction, but I would go for the first option if I had to guess. But as you can see, very, very potent combination between the sensors, this very interesting sensor that doesn't rely on the bi-Arion grill to make the colors. Here, two more pictures with the DP3 Merrill. So before it was only the DP2, now it's only the DP3. The picture on the right is kind of greenish, but that was the window through which I was taking the picture. So that's not on the camera. But the rendering is just spot on what I was seeing in that street. So really great tools to use. Also very interesting ergonomics. The user experience is just really nice. Once you get used to it, I really think Sigma had something. I know people who have those cameras tend to be very in praise. They're getting onto me, and I think even so they're kind of older models, I think I'm going to use them a little bit more, not only to test, but just for the pleasure of using them. And as you can see, you can catch basically many things, like the picture on the right, that's in the suburbs of London, or here through windows. The autofocus, even so it's an old autofocus, and it's definitely not on par with the very modern mirrorless cameras today, it works. I mean, I didn't feel the need for it to go faster or be more precise. It just worked, even so I felt it wasn't that snappy, but yeah. And again here, not two last pictures, but two pictures from the tube in London through the windows. You have those very weird color renderings once in a while with highlights, probably due to the sensor or the processing of the information after, but gives it a very organic feel. And again, for street photography, I really enjoyed those cameras. Here are two examples, one in daylight and the other one by night. Even so, those sensors are not very sensitive in low light. It works, and you can get some interesting ambiances. Here again on the left, that was just a good amount of light. Very interesting contrasty situation. It's always in London here, and as you can see, it's a very precise rendering from this camera. And on the right, again, this sort of color distortion in the highlights, but that's the Thames River and Big Ben afar. I thought the rendering, even so it's not really, I would say, objective. I really liked what came out of my camera at that point. So yeah, to be continued. Now we're going to some film, and basically that was using the Voigtlander Vito C camera, and I used a Lomochrome Color 92 from Lomography, new film from Lomography. I've already talked about it in different videos, but kind of cold color rendering, but very interesting old school picture taking from this film. And again, I did a video also on the Voigtlander Vito C. You can find it on the channel. And yeah, very great combination. The picture on the left, that's Zurich. On the right, that's Milan. Again, two pictures, same equipment in Milan. Works. Nothing much more to say about that. Here on the left, that's also with the same equipment. You see this kind of colder color rendering from the Lomography film. And on the right, that's using an old Kodak Color 100 expired film. Way warmer, and the colors tend to distort because it's an expired film from, I think, 2006. But the same place, not the same lens, obviously. On the right, that's using a Bessa L camera. So, and this one without a viewfinder, because that's how I used it. And it was basically it's you have to put it on the flash mount if you want to use it. It's is it a 17 or a 15 millimeter? I kind of forgot what I had on that camera. I had the usual lens for this camera. It's a screw-on lens, not very bright, so it's basically for you do your hyperfocal distance focusing. And without this visor, without the viewfinder, it kind of works well. You get kind of used to it. And here it was I just wanted to compare both of them to show you how different the place can be rendered depending on the film you use, the camera you use, obviously the focal range, and yeah. And here again, still with this Bessa L Voigtlander camera. Very surprising not to use a viewfinder. I kind of took the camera and used it as if I had one and looked into the void, I might say, imagining the viewfinder, and it worked. And on the right, that's just a multiple exposure, involuntary. On the last exposure on the film, I must have forced it and double exposed. But I found it interesting. I thought the result was nice. I think it's Hyde Park. Not sure, but I think so. Using a different camera now that's black and white. That's Washi 12 ISO leader film into a Olympus Pen D camera. That's half frame. And it's an older camera with no batteries in it, and basically the sensor gives enough currents for the exposure to be automatically set, and it works. It's even so, it's an old camera. It's very compact, very nice to use. I was kind of wondering what would come out, and 12 ISO, so yeah, slow speeds. That's in London, and yeah, the film is very thin. So the picture on the left, that's the last picture on the film. Either it got ripped when taking the spool off, or it was already ripped when it got rolled in. But nonetheless, that's in front of the National Gallery, I believe, in London. I thought the result was interesting. And on the right, that's because the exposures are quite slow, even in daylight, gives some really interesting results, but with motion blur. But as you can see here, you can also have some, if you're stable enough or you have enough light, you will get something interesting even with a low ISO film like this. There's a tendency of this lens to glow. That's probably due to the coatings on the lenses, but you can see it on the high contrast zones. Maybe it's a film, but I don't think so. I've been using this film other times. I think it's really the lens. But very interesting and very nice experience using this Olympus Pen D camera and this film. Really fun results to me. Here is still London, lots of London photos and lots of film. That's for those who've seen my other videos. I was testing Ferrania cameras, 6x6, and I've already tested the Nelio Flex. It's a really compact 6x6 non-foldable camera. It's actually easy to carry along with no batteries, just so you have to measure either with an external exposure meter or just by the feel. And that's using Metropolis 400 ISO film on an Helio Flex 2. which has this lens that's f6.3 instead of f8 on the Flex 1, and I think the results were quite pleasing. Street photography, a very old school rendering of the lens, but the lens has got some precision. It's really nice to use. The ergonomics are pretty cool too. Here on those two pictures, you can see there's lots of character, quite unique, old school, that's for sure. This kind of slightly circling bokeh in the back, but no, works. Nice experience. Going back to digital, we didn't talk much about digital apart from the Foveon. That's using the SL2 camera, both of those pictures, the ones that are coming after too. And that was me testing a Pentax 50mm SMC f1.2 lens. And that was in Iceland, and I was lucky to have this really huge northern light coming up. That's west of Reykjavik on the peninsula. And this lens is just kind of phenomenal. I didn't expect that in low lights. I happened to have it. It would have been great to have a very wide angle. That's 50mm, because this northern light, this aurora, was really huge. Probably one of the hugest I've seen. And yeah, I had a friend who had an 18mm with him. Oh no, sorry, a 9mm with him, and he even couldn't catch it all at once. So, but still, I was really pleased by the results. You can see those boats on the sea at the background. Very precise, not too much glow, just enough. Lots of character, very precise. And here, two more pictures with same equipment. The mountains of Iceland in the south, or on the right, that's a local artist at the Kex concert place, concert bar in Reykjavik. A great place to go and listen to music and get a drink. Going back to Foveon, for those who've seen the tracks video about the Lourdes Trail, that's taken from that experience. So just go check there if you want to see more about it. And yeah, using this Foveon, putting it to its paces, this really kind of analog look of the film, which isn't a film because it's a digital sensor. Very interesting setup. And here on the left, that's still the Foveon, the DP2 Merrill. And on the right, that's the SL2 with the 100mm f2.8 bubble bokeh on the Leica SL2. Very different rendering, as you can see, of the same place. Obviously, one is kind of 45-50mm, the other 100mm, but otherwise, just the softness of the rendering, the precision, the glow. You can see on the left with the Foveon, you have those weird color distortions where the sun is, but still, I think it's a very interesting lens. Here, two pictures with the bubble bokeh lens, the TT Artisan on the SL2. Yeah. Not much more to say. Really interesting, soft rendering, old school. Here we're going back to film. I was really happy to be able to experience this. There's a specific video about it, and that's about the Harman Phoenix film. You can check it on the playlist, where I talk more about it with a deep dive into this film that's out now. And I was lucky enough to be able to test a pre-production roll. And that's what you get. And that was using a Leica R8 reflex camera and R mount lenses, which are really kind of classic lenses. And yeah, a very interesting film made by Harman that does Ilford, the black and white film, the paper that does Kentmere. And that's their first excursion into making color film. And I think it's a full success. Very much loaded with character. As you can see with those two pictures here, the two last one in this series, no anti-halation or very little in the back of the film. So you have those halos coming out and highlights, but a very different way of doing it, and a very interesting film. Kind of grainy because I pushed it to 400 ISO, but just go check the video if you want to see more about the deep dive and how this film reacts when you push it at 400 ISO. It's defined as 100 to 400 ISO film. I wanted to push it a little bit higher, so here. That's it for this month. Hopefully you found it interesting, as usual, or entertaining. And if you have questions, suggestions, comments, don't hesitate, and catch you next time.